So I wanted to make this video talking about SpongeBob because SpongeBob is one of my favorite cartoons of all time. But I don't watch SpongeBob as much as I used to when I was a kid. Like, I still hear about it here and there when it comes to, me going on Twitter and just scrolling through different posts to see what's going on if it ever happens to pop up. Or if I just happen to stumble across a TikTok video or YouTube or whatever the case may be. But I wanted to make this video talking about, like, SpongeBob when it comes to the show eventually ending. Mainly like how it's gonna feel like once that show ends and everything along the lines of that. Just pretty much trying to look at the future when it comes to that sort of thing. And I'm just gonna be giving my thoughts on everything that's been going through my head when it comes to this topic, because I was thinking about it this morning when I woke up. But I was like, you know what? I want to start talking about other shows that I really like on the channel. And I do like SpongeBob, and this has been a, sort of thing that's been going through my head. So I wanted to, just hop on here and talk to my audience and see how they feel about the matter. So if you guys have any thoughts that you want to say when it comes to this sort of thing, let me know in the comments. We could talk about it, of course, towards the end of the video. But let's just hop straight into this so we can talk about SpongeBob. So when it comes to SpongeBob, I feel like a lot of people already understand how important that show is. But when you really sit down and think about it, it goes way deeper than just being a popular cartoon. Because SpongeBob has been around for so many years at this point, and it's not just something that had its moment and then faded away. It's something that Nickelodeon has continued to rely on over and over again. You could clearly see that just based on how often it's still being pushed even today. And when I really think about it, the best way I can even describe SpongeBob is that it's basically Nickelodeon's version of Mario. Because when you think about Nintendo, Mario is always there no matter what. Whether if it's games, spin-offs, or just being the face of the company in general. And that's exactly how SpongeBob feels when it comes to Nickelodeon. Because no matter what's going on, SpongeBob is always involved in some way. Whether it's new episodes, new movies, or just being constantly shown on the channel. And because of that, it feels like Nickelodeon puts a lot of stock into SpongeBob. Like, this is one of those shows where they know it's always going to bring in attention. It's always going to keep people watching, and it's always going to be something that they can fall back on. Especially when it comes to new content, because if there's a new SpongeBob movie or something like that, people are going to check it out no matter what. So when you look at it like that, it makes sense why SpongeBob has lasted this long. Because it's not just another show to them, it's something way bigger than that. It's something that's basically holding everything together. And that's why even thinking about it ending feels strange, because it's been around for so long. So when it comes to SpongeBob actually ending, this is where things start to get a little weird to think about. Because if we're being honest, cartoons like this don't really have a clear ending most of the time. Like, it's not one of those stories where everything is building up to the final conclusion. It's more about the adventures that keep going on over and over again without really stopping. And that's what makes this question kind of interesting, because when you think about SpongeBob, you don't really picture a final episode where everything just wraps up and that's it. Because the whole point of the show is that these characters can just keep going through different situations forever, and it doesn't really need a true ending to function. But at the same time, that doesn't mean it's going to last forever either, because eventually there's going to be a point where Nickelodeon decides to stop making new episodes or movies, even if it's not some big dramatic ending. There's still going to be a moment where SpongeBob content just, well, stops coming out. And that's really where my mind goes with this, because it's not about how SpongeBob ends in a story sense. It's more like, when does it stop existing as something that's still active? Because those are two completely different things, and I feel like that second question is way more interesting to think about. So now this is where things really start to hit, because when I try to imagine Nickelodeon without SpongeBob getting new content, it just feels weird. Like, it doesn't even feel real to think about, because for so long, SpongeBob has just always been there, whether you're actively watching it or not. And yet, obviously, even if SpongeBob were to stop getting new episodes, it's not like it would just disappear completely. Because there's always going to be reruns, there's always going to be older episodes playing, and it's always going to be part of Nickelodeon in some way. Because that's not really the same thing as knowing there's still new content still coming out. Because there's something about knowing that SpongeBob is still active that makes it feel alive. Like there's always something new around the corner, whether it's a new season, a new movie, or just something else tied to it. But once that stops, the whole feeling of it changes, even if the show itself is still technically around. And I feel like that's the part that's hard to really picture right now, because we've never really experienced a version of Nickelodeon where SpongeBob isn't one of the main things being pushed with new content. So trying to imagine that shift is just kind of strange when you really think about it. So when it comes to me personally, this is where everything really connects, because SpongeBob is easily one of my favorite cartoons of all time. And when it comes to Nickelodeon, it's my favorite show, no question. Like this is something that I've had a connection with for a really long time. I mean, I was super obsessed with SpongeBob when I was a kid. Like this was one of those shows that I would watch all the time without getting tired of it. And it was just always there growing up, so naturally it became something that stuck with me even as I got older. And even now, while I don't really watch SpongeBob like I used to, I still keep up with it here and there. I still see clips, I still hear about what's going on with the series, and I still have that appreciation for it, because it's one of those shows that just stays with you no matter what. So when I think about the idea of it eventually not getting new content anymore, it actually hits a little different, because it's not just some random show ending. It's something that's been a part of my life for a long time, and that's why even thinking about that day still feels kind of weird. So at the end of the day, I'm not saying that SpongeBob needs to end right now or anything like that, because honestly, it can just keep going on for as long as it wants to, and I don't really have a problem with that, because clearly it's still doing something right if it's been around for so long. But at the same time, there's always going to be that question in the back of my mind. Like, when is that day actually going to come where we don't see new SpongeBob episodes or movies anymore? Because even if it's not happening anytime soon, it's still something that's eventually going to happen. And I feel like when that day does come, it's going to feel really different. Not just for me, but for a lot of people who grew up with SpongeBob. Because it's one of those shows that feels like it's always been around, so seeing it finally slow down or stop is going to be something people actually notice. So really, this whole thing isn't about wanting SpongeBob to end. It's about trying to imagine what things are going to feel like when it eventually does stop being something that's still active. Because that's a moment that we're all going to experience at some point, whether we're ready for it or not. And that's basically what I wanted to talk about here. Like, how is it going to feel the day that SpongeBob ends? And I know I've heard many times before that the actual SpongeBob ending was supposed to be the very first SpongeBob movie. Which, if that were to be the case when it comes to the way that the series would end, I mean, hey, that would be fantastic. He gets recognized by his peers, you know, he's the manager at the Krusty Krab. There was a nice little happy ending there. I mean, hey, that would be a perfect ending for SpongeBob. And I'm sure there's going to be an ending for it one day. We just don't really know exactly when that's going to happen. We just have to enjoy it while it's still around, because it's just crazy to think about, you know. I was born in the late 90s, so I watched SpongeBob in like the early 2000s, like basically when I was, you know, getting into kindergarten, or probably, you know, a couple years before that. So it's always been a part of my life, and I still remember the day that my dad took me to see the very first SpongeBob movie, and it was such an amazing experience that I'll never forget it. Like, I have that movie in my possession. It's not in the best quality when it comes to the condition of the case, but still, you know, I love that movie so much. I consider the very first SpongeBob movie to be a classic. It's just a lot of fun. That's my personal favorite when it comes to the SpongeBob movies. Haven't seen all of them, but I believe I saw the first two, but I'm always going to prefer the first one. Not just because it's the first, but there's just, I don't know, there's just that special feel with that movie, if that makes any sense. But you get what I'm trying to say here. You know, it's just going to feel weird once we eventually get to that point. So I just wanted to make a video just talking about exactly all of that. But if you guys have any thoughts of your own when it comes to how you guys feel about this topic, be sure to let me know in the comments. And if you guys did hear any noises in this video, I apologize. That might be my phone going off, but I'm just going to keep it in as a, you know, funny little blooper, you know, just to interact with you guys and just be goofy and all that. Yeah, just let me know all your thoughts when it comes to, you know, how you feel about this topic. And if you guys enjoyed this video, of course, be sure to like and subscribe. I would really appreciate it. If you guys want to see what I'm doing outside of YouTube, be sure to check out my social media when it comes to my X, Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. All the links are located in the description below. Be sure to check out my Discord server so we could talk more when it comes to all of our favorite things. That is listed in the description and is also pinned in the comments. Be Be sure to click on that bell for notifications so you guys are notified whenever I'm dropping a new video on the channel. I hope all of you guys are having a fantastic day, wherever the day may be, if it's the daytime, the nighttime, or the evening. And I'll see you guys in the next video. As always, peace out.